Hi there, Linda here. It's Friday, time for my weekly update about my books and events and work in progress. Today, however, I'm going to stick with my work in progress because I am so pleased and honored to finally be able to divulge a secret story that's been on my mind for 25 years. Yes, it's really been that long. But only last year I was granted the go-ahead to make this real-life story public by turning it into a novel. I'm finally writing a novel I'm calling Double Duty about an American woman undercover agent in the 1980s, a spy. Here's the story behind the story. My brother, 8.5 years older than me, was in the Air Force for 25 years. He spent most of that time in the OSI, Office of Special Investigations. If you've not heard of them, they provide criminal investigations and counterintelligence for the military. They often coordinate their efforts with the CIA, and my brother, Barry Hughes, was the first non-CIA person to be awarded a medal by the CIA. It was for his work with the Shah of Iran in the 1970s and 80s, which is a whole book in and of itself. But last year, what Barry asked me to do was to write a novel about the women who so bravely jeopardized their lives during his time in service. Women in undercover work who, because of the clandestine nature of the work, seldom got so much as a thank you, let alone any kind of recognition. I'd asked many times if I could write about his work. He'd always refused, saying it would be dangerous, and besides, he'd pledged secrecy. Well, now that he's 86 years old, however, he thinks it's time for women to be given credit for their work in making our country a safer place at that time. These women were often secretaries, as they were called back in the day, or wives of diplomats or other embassy workers or relatives of agents who may have been unofficially undercover, but they risked their very lives doing the very dangerous work whenever it was needed. There were female agents too, and as it turns out, I had a tangential connection to that work myself. Many of you know I spent 20 years doing training programs all over the US and in other countries. The topics were things like stress management or team building, that kind of stuff. When the first ever anti-terrorism conference was planned in this country in 1984, I was asked to give a presentation on stress management for the attendees who were high-level state and government employees and military officers. It went really well, and I spent years as a contract trainer working with every branch of the military and so many government agencies I lost track. Because I was already traveling the world from my other training work for companies and the public, it was easy to do the government and military work too while I was out and about. I was already there. All that is to say, I came to know some folks, besides my brother, in the world of counterintelligence, a few who even became close friends. I've been through a bit of their training. I've visited sites where they worked. I've been inside American embassies. I even got caught in a couple of things only because I was there and they didn't have time to get rid of me. So I know some of the women my brother wants me to acknowledge. I also have their support in telling this story. The time to do it is now. I've put all of this together to write about a fictional woman named Melinda Malone, a contract trainer who's recruited to work with OSI and CIA undercover just by merely being a trainer in cities around the world to do her seminars. She's struggling with balancing her personal life and her secret life, as so many agents really do. But like most Americans who choose to go into that kind of dangerous work, it's really dangerous, Melinda is hell-bent on doing whatever she can to help keep the country she loves safe. As small a part as she might play, she understands the importance of team effort in calling out moles, ferreting out violent players, and gathering information from foreign spies. I've set this story in Istanbul, Turkey, for many reasons, but primarily because it's a fascinating, exotic, historical city that I love. Our protagonist loves it too. So I think, or at least I hope, you'll fall in love with Melinda and the team she works with. And even though I'm making up these fictional people, I'm just tickled to get to know them as they show up on the page. What characters, just like some of the real ones that I knew. There is surprising depth, humor, and even romance. You know, I can't write a book without romance, but it's okay. That really did happen from time to time within the organization. I even know a couple who married way back then, and they're still happily married today. And like many of my novels, this is dual timeline. Melinda is an old woman reminiscing after overhearing her grandchildren talk about how boring her life must have always been in their small town. They have no idea. The book will be done in a couple of months. I'm working on it. I can't wait for you and other readers to have it in hand. And I can't wait to show it to my brother and give him a big hug for his encouragement. The real-life women who inspired this novel deserve for their story to be told, and they certainly deserve our heartfelt appreciation, our acknowledgement, and most of all, our love. Double duty, coming soon. I'll see you next time.